Welcome to a special edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll learn about organics recycling in Washington County. And we'll take a look back at highlights of Northeast Journal from over the years. All that and more is straight ahead on Northeast Journal. Hello everyone and welcome to a special edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Every month on Northeast Journal, we give you an inside look at the people and places that make up the northeast section of the Twin Cities. The Washington County Environmental Center is a popular place for people to drop off old items for recycling. Now you can also drop off organics for recycling too. Here's a closer look.
We're the household hazardous waste facility. That's our main purpose for Washington County. So you bring your paint, your gasoline, all your chemicals that you don't use anymore for proper disposal and recycling. We started organics in January of 2019, and it's quite a popular program. We're doing as many as 50 to 60 drop-offs a day for organics. The organics is a little bit more than you can compost in your backyard. So anything you can compost in your backyard, as far as kitchen waste, any kitchen waste you can compost in your backyard, starting at coffee grounds, eggshells. But then because it's a commercial or a commercial composting process where the temperatures get higher, you can do chicken bones, cheese, beef, anything really that's generated from your table scraps can be composted and brought in as an organic here. It goes to a compost facility in Shakopee, where it's under special conditions and care where they're maintaining the temperature, turning it at the proper times, and they even aerate it. So all this material that you'll later maybe see in the video of the truck picking up or people dropping it off, all that gets piled up and over a pipe that injects air into it, and it's turned periodically, and it turns into garden soil or garden dirt. And they sell it. You go to our website at the Washington County, Minnesota website and just click on Environmental Center and you'll find the link to get your organics starter kit. You get this 2-gallon pail to sit on your kitchen counter. You get a handy dandy refrigerator cling that you can put on your refrigerator so your whole family knows what can go in the organics container. We start with 10 bags that you can have, and every time you bring in a bag, we'll give you a new bag. So the bags are free as part of the recycling program.
Northeast Journal began on this channel in 1994, which is hard to believe, but was 25 years ago. Here's a look back at a little of Northeast Journal's history. A new television program designed to inform Northeast suburb residents of their City Hall happenings, local events, and interesting people was unveiled to the viewing public in February of 1994 in the form of Northeast Journal.
Welcome to the very first edition of Northeast Journal from the North St. Paul Community Center. I'm Heather Filkins.
Over the past 10 years, Northeast Journal has had a variety of hosts bringing you a mix of stories and interviews.
There's a new face in the mayor's seat at the Vatanis Heights City Hall. There's been a changing of the guard, and Sue Banovitz is now the city's new mayor.
It's a project for the city of White Bear Lake to make people more aware of household hazardous waste and how to dispose of it.
Well, for 13 years, Mary Ann Franson has done more than just put on a pretty face. Through her dedication and devotion to children and communities across the Northeast Metro, it's easy to see why this lovable, huggable granny touches lives everywhere she goes.
Well, the set that I'm walking on here is for the Century College production of The Rover. And while we're on the topic of authors, let's find out what the Ramsey County Library is recommending as their Book of the Month. We'd like to thank Bob and Pam Hampel for letting us hang out in their backyard for a while. The Pine Tree Apple Orchard, where we're bringing you this month's show, is known throughout the metro area for their... The Vadnais Heights Economic Development Corporation is known throughout the community for its good deed. I've been fortunate to have hosted Northeast Journal since late 2001. Here's some of my favorite stories since then.
This organ was built in 1927, originally for the Phillips Academy in a suburb of Boston called Andover, Massachusetts. But this organ was given by a man in memory of his late wife, and in 1927 it was installed in what has become a concert hall. The same gentleman, a few years after this was built, was giving money for a new chapel, which was to have its own organ. Of course, the Depression hit not too long after that time, in the early 30s, and the chapel was completed, but the plans for the organ never materialized. And the man insisted that they take this pipe organ that he had paid for and move it into the chapel. The chapel had a smaller provision for space for an organ in it, so this organ was a very bad fit in that space. And as good as this organ inherently was, it just could never sound good in that home. And finally, with the help of some consultation and so forth, they decided what they really ought to do is remove the organ and put something smaller that's well placed and designed for that room in. So the organ wound up being stored in a barn in Traverse City for about 16 years. And in that time, it endured quite a bit of damage from water and from vermin infestation and severe swings of humidity and so on, all things that organs don't like. But there was a particular family from St. Andrews that took interest in this. And this particular family thought that this was an idea that'd be really worth pursuing and would provide a certain uniqueness that St. Andrews would be able to claim that would be worthy of spreading out not throughout this community but worldwide, and it has garnered worldwide appeal. So we enlisted an organ company, the Shantz Organ Company in Orville, Ohio, to construct for us all new mechanism for the organ. So all the Winchests are new, and this organ console that you see here is new, with the exception of the keyboards, which are original ivory keyboards from another Cassavant organ. So as a result of all that, what remains original in the organ are the pipes that are behind the facade. The organ facade that you see in the background was all designed by Shantz and fashioned new to be appropriate for a Danish architect's conception of a 21st century worship space. And then we should also point out that in the facade, the pipes do not speak, with the exception of the horizontal copper-colored trumpets across the front. Those are a functioning item. The rest of the facade is just really for show, and it's just designed to give the organ a good visual appearance in the room. So the overall cost is about $1.25 million. But the organ has proven itself to be very effective in weddings and in funerals and a variety of contexts, in playing soft, very pretty kinds of quiet things, playing whisper quiet settings underneath choir singing to the point where you can hardly hear that it's there. And it's very capable of a tremendous roar and thunderous kind of a sound as well. I think most of them are just floored by the sound that it has. Even those who thought they would never be able to tell the difference right away were very impressed.
It's not every day that you see high school students throwing a party for senior citizens. But that's what happened recently at the Golden Prom. This 7th annual event was once again held at the Prom Center in Oakdale. Students from Tartan and North High Schools raise money for the event, doing everything from writing grants to conducting fundraisers so that seniors can attend the Golden Prom for free. Tartan economics teacher Sarah Paul tells us the students love this project every year.
Know that they pull it off, and as one student said, just to see the smiles on their faces makes it all worthwhile. They don't get a grade. There's no tie to what their grade is in class. They do it because they look at it as a bridge from moving on from high school to be an active participant in the community.
All right, ready?
For the seniors, there's plenty of picture taking, dancing, eating, and socializing. For the students, there are countless rewards they get out of the Golden Prom.
I really enjoy being involved with this just because to see what the end result is and just how happy they are to, all our hard work, what it goes for.
Doing events like this shows them that we really do care about these senior citizens, and we care how they feel, and that we love to make them smile and to make them happy by hosting events like this.
I think it's really awesome. I think it's a great experience for, older people and younger people to meet. And, there's that big gap between people, and for me especially, I don't oftentimes get a chance to meet, senior citizens. So I think it's awesome, and I've never been in a more friendly place.
Just really a great experience to just get down to sit down and talk with them. I really just hope that they feel like they've had a good time, and I'll just feel good after the day is over, letting myself know that I've had a great time and helped some of the older people have a good time as well.
And judging by the seniors' reactions, they did indeed have a good time and appreciated the students' hard work.
It's wonderful, the atmosphere and everything. Everybody's friendly. You don't find a sober face in here. So, and all the kids are enjoying it themselves, I think. They look like it.
Come to the table, talk to you, they're dancing with us, everything. It's really nice.
Offer you coffee, lemonade, and so forth. Very good.
Well, I was joking about it with some of my neighbors. They asked what we were doing today, and I said, we're going to the senior prom. And of course, they gave me that dirty look, but it worked out great.
The food, the gambling, the whole thing, yeah, right. And the kids are so great. Yeah. The high school kids are super.
Look for another Golden Prom next year. For Maplewood's Scott Cheesebro, stepping back in time is all part of a day's work. For the past dozen or so years, whether volunteering or on staff, Cheesebro has come to historic Fort Snelling in St. Paul to educate and entertain as an historical interpreter in the year 1827.
It's the closest that, at least to my feeling, that one will ever get to what it was really like to experience that time or place, or sometimes you'll spend, a whole 8 hours and you may get 5 minutes out of that day where you get a little glimmer or glimpse of what it might have really been like.
Cheesebro was a history major in college, so working at Fort Snelling is a perfect fit.
It's a very rare site as far as this period in history. There's not many forts existing from this period, 1820s. It really was a very important site at this time because a lot of the money that the government generated was through the fur trade. In this area, this fort really regulated the fur trade.
Cheesebro speaks with countless visitors over the course of the summer, including many school groups who often ask some interesting questions.
Oh yes, there's been some pretty unique questions over the years. Last year someone asked us what kind of underwear we wore, so that was a pretty unique one.
By showing what military life was like back in the early 1800s, Chesebro feels he can impact current generations.
If I can do anything that sparks someone's interest and perhaps, hopefully, they might read something about it or generate something a path they might never have gone down before and educating themselves, to me, that's a real big goal.
You know, we're doing this show on pets. Kind of makes me wish I had a pet here in the office. I don't know what kind I could have, though. I don't know, a dog or a cat probably wouldn't work. Maybe I can find something on here. Yeah! Sea monkeys! Yeah, that'll work. I really hope they have them here. What should I get? Hey, this is what I want. Sea monkeys. Amazing Live Sea Monkeys Ocean Zoo. Hey, and it's absolutely guaranteed to grow. They're even wearing jewelry. I like that. Oh, this is gonna be so great. I gotta get back. Oh, I can't believe I actually got my sea monkeys. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get back and figure out how I can hatch them. Oh, gotta get the monkeys. Oh yes, sea monkeys! Wow, excuse me!
Quiet down out there!
Oh man, I'm so excited. Can't wait to hatch my sea monkeys. All right, what do we gotta do here? Oh, look at this. An official sea monkey handbook. Oh yeah. All right, let's see. First, open the water purifier. Put 12 ounces of water in. Oh man, I gotta wait a whole day till I can put the eggs in. Oh. All right, this is the first step. Sea monkey water purifier. Let's add some water to this. Oh yeah, that's good water. Yeah. Okay, now all we gotta do is pour this stuff in here. Oh, there it goes. That water is gonna be purified. Stir it up. Yeah.
All right, sea monkeys.
Yeah, you better believe it. Well, I guess that about does it. Just have to wait 24 hours now. We can put those eggs in there. All right, we purified the water. Now we got to pour in the instant live eggs. Oh, there they are. Oh, there's lots of them. We're going to have tons of sea monkeys. Stir it gently. All right, that should do it for now. I'll just check back tomorrow morning. Hopefully we'll have some babies. All this hard work, all the time and money I've invested into this, I can't believe it. They're finally here. There's got to be like 1,000 of them in there.
Joe, do you mind? I cannot eat with these stinky monkeys.
Hey, buddy, just eat your tasty cakes and back off. You know, you can insult me, you can insult my show, but don't you dare ever insult my poor sea monkeys. They can't defend themselves.
If I pitch, can you catch? Will you hold the ball? When you step to the plate, will you swing and fall? If you play, you gotta know how it's done. Can you catch? Can you hold a hard one?
Day 1, 1961. My dad took me to the first opener, and I brought a program, a ticket stub, and a bob and head doll home that day, and I still have them. It started it. Who would have thought an addiction would start that easily? I'm an accumulator. I have, I think, every scrapbook, every antique my grandparents ever gave me, every sheet of paper that could be kept. I've got it. I'm just a pack rat.
Through to you.
I've got over 6,000 items with Minnesota Twins on it. My wife's really pleased that we have a big house and I can go up to Twins Heaven up here in the attic. These old houses had third floor would have been an attic. Sometimes they were called a ballroom where they'd have their parties up here. It's just a big open room, and if something doesn't belong in the rest of the house, she subtly puts it on the attic steps and it ends up here. I've divided the attic into different sections. This is dedicated to some of the more significant players. To my right here is Rod Carew. To my left would be Harmon Killebrew. Behind me would be the Hall of Fame induction area, where we have our Killebrews, our Carews, we have Winfield, we have Puckett, and some of the memorabilia I acquired while they were being inducted. Below that are the cases of the almost years, 1967 when they had a one-game lead with 2 games to go and Boston beat them in both games, and of course back in 67 there was not a playoff. If you won the American League you went right to the World Series. This is Harmon Killebrew's Hall of Fame induction speech that he gave me. 6 pages that he typed up. It has his handwritten changes, clarifications and the like. And then at the very end, he just said my Hall of Fame speech, Harmon Killebrew. This is by far and away the most collectible of all bobblehead dolls. I say that because it's a one of a kind. In mid-1960, they started producing bobblehead dolls. They were called bobbing head dolls back then. And when the Twins moved here in '61, they incorporated under the name of the Minneapolis Baseball Club. Immediately, the Bobbin Head Doll Company made up one, hopefully talking Cal Griffith into selling them. And being that they were incorporated with the name Minneapolis Baseball Club, that's what they put on the base. Very quickly, within weeks, they changed their name officially to the Minnesota Twins, and the subsequent dolls that were issued had Minnesota on the base. Because this was a one-of-a-kind one, it is very unique and very collectible. I got this through Calvin Griffith. In this section here, I've divided it up into 2 areas, one for the 1987 World Series, one for the 1991. Also as part of this area, we have the shirt that Bill Haller wore at the first game at the Metrodome. He was umpire number 1 because of his seniority, and he retired at the end of that season. I talked to Bill and was able to acquire that. Immediately after the game, I got the lineup cards from Bill from the first game ever in the Metrodome. Here's the bat that Kent Herbeck hit the first home run in the Metrodome. The Twins were kind enough to give me that after that game. There's a picture here of Mariel Humphrey throwing out the first ball. They dedicated the stadium that night in her husband's memory, and here's the actual ball that Mariel Humphrey threw out, and it's Mariel Humphrey Brown, April 6th, 1982, to Clyde Deppner. So it's some wonderful memorabilia, some wonderful memories of some of the highlights and maybe in some cases some of the lowlights of the Minnesota Twins.
Autism. It's a word you hear almost every day in the news lately. What exactly is autism? Well, there are many complex ways to define this complex disorder. My family has been personally touched by autism, so I thought it might be easier for me to explain it through our eyes. Let's go back to the beginning. October 4th, 2005. That's when Josiah Sean Cullen entered our world. My wife Tani and I were so excited to greet this little bundle of joy, and for the first year and a half our lives seemed pretty typical. Milestones were being met, and with each passing day we saw Josiah doing all the things parents anticipate. But with very little notice, something drastic happened.
I would say that maybe somewhere between 19 months and 22 months, there were little things that started to change, but it was really at 22 months, he started losing some words. He started just acting differently, and then it just kind of took a nosedive from there.
Josiah, high five!
He stopped looking at us, responding to us. He stopped responding to his name. I remember having to take a blanket and put it over his head and mine to get him to look at me. And there was a moment during that 3 weeks that I just remember saying, oh my gosh, I think we're losing him. I remember during that time doing a lot of internet searching, and I would put in kind of the symptoms, and it would kind of be like hoping that anything would come up but autism. And I swear every time I'd put in some of these symptoms that we were seeing, autism kept coming up. The sort of thing that was so scary about that was a lot of the things that would come up would say autism is incurable, it's lifelong, and it's pervasive. And that was really, really scary for me. That seemed like there was absolutely no hope. They didn't know what caused it or how to fix it. And I was hoping it could be a speech delay, it could be his eyes, maybe it was his eyes that were not working well, something, anything but that. So it was kind of scary when that word kept coming up.
It's not uncommon for families to go through cycles of grief when faced with an autism diagnosis.
Lots of fear about what is this going to mean. You know, autism is one of those disorders that is so varied among children. The way it looks in every different child is a little bit different, and the severity of how affected a child is or isn't can be so different. And so parents are really overwhelmed in the beginning, really fearful, not understanding what this means, what's it going to look like in the future. If this is what my child looks like today, is this what my child will always look like? And there's so much unknown in the beginning that it can be really overwhelming for parents.
Row, row, row your boat. For my situation, I felt like I was kind of blindsided by autism. It was like one day everything was normal and great, and the next day something was wrong.
And part of the reason for this trip down memory lane, besides the 25th anniversary of NEJ, is that I'm leaving Suburban Community Channels to pursue other opportunities. I've been employed here for 20 years, so SEC and Northeast Journal have been a big part of my life. I want to thank all of you who have watched this show and for your kind comments over the years. I'd also like to thank all of the talented staff I've worked with over my 20 years, including producer Jeff Melcock, who has been the photographer-editor for most of my shows here, as well as Brian Henshin, who was in that role for a couple of years too. And it's hard to not leave anyone out with all the staff we've had here for 20 years, but every month, besides myself and either Jeff or Brian, there's a number of other staff who contribute to this show in many ways, including Lou Lee and Nick Anderson, Mary Klein, Troy Sepian, Brad Karstens, and under the leadership of Judy Sky Voss and Joe Frazier and Tim Finnerty, our executive director. There's just been a number of people here, and sorry if I left anyone out, but really a lot of talented staff here over the years that we've worked with. And I'm not sure what the future is going to hold for Northeast Journal once I'm gone, but I'm sure the staff here will continue to produce great programming. So I encourage you to keep watching Channel 16 for many, many years to come. And thanks, everybody.